Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick-and-mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I'm passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love, because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you are meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. I am your host, Ali Aruda, and I am so excited to be joined in studio today with one of my very special friends, Jess Rickus. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Ali. I'm so excited to be here. It is my very first podcast recording, so
oh my gosh,
thanks for inviting me.
The low-key, competitive side of me loves when I have inaugural podcast guests. First timers. It's just extra joyful for me. So this is amazing. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. So for all of you that don't know who Jess is, have no fear. We're going to dive all into that. But Jess is the founder and creative of Studio 90 Social Media Management. And fun fact, we are recording in studio today at Pearl Street Studio in downtown Burlington, who is one of your clients, but it's also a place where Jess and I not first met, but probably had one of our first longer collisions and conversations together.
Yes.
So it feels really cool to be back in here. It looks different than when we originally met in here. It was our friend Charlene's photography studio, and has now turned into Pearl Street Studio, where I love filming in-person podcasts. And so cool just how everything comes together.
Yeah.
And Matt was in here, husband Matt was in here before doing an episode, and we were talking all about networking and just the power of building your network for your network. And I feel like this is a beautiful example. And you've just started working with one of our dear friends who lives in Scottsdale.
Yes.
And I feel like we'll dive into this, a little bit about the networking piece. I want to rewind and chat more. So I want to start and understand how you got into the world of social media management.
Yeah. So I like to think I've lived 9 lives. I've worked in so many different industries, and industries very, very different to what I'm doing now. I was a registered kinesiologist doing all things science, all things fitness and physio and this and that. And that's where I thought I would be forever. That's where, had you asked me where I'd be in 10, 20 years, I thought it would be there through and through. But then I had kids, and my perspective just changed, and I realized that I actually have a massive creative bone in my body that I never knew existed. I thought I was just a science and math girl, but I'm actually quite creative. So a few years ago, I started a clothing company as I was going back to work.
Right, I remember this.
The good old clothing company. Yeah, so I had a clothing company, started off with kids clothing mostly, and kind of Christmas items, personalized things. And it grew, long story short, it grew into kind of doing loungewear for adults. Tandem, yes, but started out as My Little Loves when it was, kids clothing. Changed into Tandem, which is a combination of my son's name, Tanner, and my daughter's name, Emily. That's where Tandem came from.
Love it.
Thank you. So in that, I really dove headfirst into this creative side of me. And I was still working. I went back to work after my first mat leave. I was working in long-term disability. And I just didn't want to be there. I just wanted to be back.
That doesn't feel very creative.
No, absolutely not.
It's creativity.
Actually the complete opposite. And I just started to feel less and less aligned in what I thought was going to be my future. So took another mat leave when I had my second child, and I was still doing the clothing company. It was growing. I was doing really well. I was marketing it fully through social media, self-taught, and it was quite successful. So at one point, when I wanted to change it from My Little Loves to Tandem, I hired a company to help me rebrand and fix up my website and that sort of thing. Fast forward, that company then offered me a job when they saw the skills that I already had. You didn't really need us. How about you come work for us? And I jumped on the opportunity because it was a creative opportunity. And I started working with them. So I was working with that company for a couple of years, which was such a great season of my life. Absolutely loved it, learned so much. And eventually, like many things do, it got to the point where it was time to move on. So in November of last year only, November 2024, I branched out on my own, started Studio 90, and here we are.
Oh my gosh. I love when you sat down. I was like, okay, so has it been 1 year, 2 years? And you said November 1st. I was like, okay, great. So we're a fetus.
Yeah.
Basically,
Oh,
we're in the infancy
100%,
stage.
yeah.
But you're crushing it.
Well, thank you.
You're one. You take that compliment. You
Thank
take it and
you.
you put that in your back pocket.
Thank you.
So November 1st, we start Studio 90. How did you come up with the name?
Well, I'm a 90s girl, so I love the word studio. I feel like it has a bit of that creative flair to it. Creative things happen in a studio. And I'm born in 1990, giving my age away. So I just paired those two together as one of those kind of like, I'm starting a business, I need a name, let's do this, come up with a name, and let's go. So that's where the name came from. Wasn't some really fancy story, but that's it.
I love that. Okay, so I have so many questions about social media because I feel like all of the rooms and even virtual rooms, like the masterminds that we coach in, but the masterminds that we also invest in, social media and the algorithm, dun, 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 feels like it is the hottest topic because so many of us, and I don't have I think I would be considered maybe a nano account, that I'm almost at 10K.
Whoop. Let's get her to 10K.
I know, get it. Please, if you're not following me, follow me on Instagram. I want the 10K balloons and the quintessential photo shoot. Very excited. Hopefully Matt will buy me a bottle of champagne I can pose. I have it all pictured in my mind.
He better.
But everybody, even people that have 300K and above, we are all talking about social media and the algorithm. What the heck is going on?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. And thank you for doing that little doom sound when you said the algorithm, because I honestly think the algorithm could be a, scary Halloween costume because everybody is afraid of it. But I think everyone just needs to step back and actually look at the algorithm as something that's not against us. It's not out to get us. It's actually trying to understand us. So, think about it. There's billions of people that use social media. Let's look at Instagram, for example. And those people wouldn't stick around on those platforms unless they were given and shown the type of content that they want to see. So, Ali, if you're scrolling through your Instagram and it's all this random stuff that you are not interested in, you're going to start to get annoyed with the platform. So the algorithm has a very important purpose to feed us the kind of content that we want to see. And it's, I think, a misconception, and trust me, I have cursed the algorithm many a time, but I think it's a common misconception that it's a bad thing or it's out to get us or it prioritizes only, super successful creators and those are the only ones that are succeeding on the platform and everybody else is kind of like just chomping at the bit to try and get any kind of movement with their content. But it's really just trying to figure out what it is that your ideal customer or client wants to see and hear. What are the questions that they are asking? What are the pain points that they have? What are the things that they are interested in? And if you're not doing your homework on those things, then you're probably going to hate the algorithm because your content is potentially self-serving. You're thinking about, what do I want to create today? Whereas you should be thinking about it in terms of, what does my audience want to see today? What does my ideal client or customer or whatever it is want to see today? And create your content around that.
Okay, let's pause it right there for anyone listening that is hearing this and being like, okay, great, thanks, Jess, for letting me know what the T is on the algorithm. But if they're trying to understand their audience more, where and how can they learn more about their audience so that they can better serve them? Because I think that's a brilliant way of shedding light on what's going on to be able to really focus and be of service to your audience, to your ideal client avatar with what you're producing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few ways to do that. There's, paid ways where you can go to marketing agencies that offer, SEO audits and actually look at the keywords and the questions that are being asked in, there's specific programs that will actually do that for you and give you a whole long list of the questions that your ideal customer or client is asking. That's one option, but if that's not in your budget, you can ask your audience. So the audience that you already have is so important. You know, a lot of people focus on how can I bring in new people? How can I bring in new people? How can I bring in new people? And they forget to foster the audience they already have and forget to lean into that audience to turn it into a community. And I know we're going to talk more about community.
Yeah,
that's a big one.
It's one of my favorite words.
But the audience that you already have, you know, kind of backtrack here. The way that the algorithm works is your content is first shown to your audience, your current followers. If your current followers are engaging with your content and they're, you know, loyal community that loves your content, they're liking it, they're sharing it, they're commenting on it, then the algorithm is going to push that content out because it's telling the algorithm that your content is good and people want to see it. So then you're going to reach those non-followers and then more non-followers and then more non-followers. But if that, you know, original audience that is already following you is not liking your content's not going to be pushed out elsewhere. It's not going to be pushed out further. It's just going to stop there. And that's where you see that, like, maybe you see it trickle up at first once you know, post a reel and you watch the views and keep refreshing the page and you see it go up a bit and then all of a sudden it stops and it's done.
You're like, knock, knock, hello, where are all the views? Come for me, please.
Yeah, so you have to ask the question. So go in your story, you know, talk to your audience, ask them what kind of content they want to see. Use story polls. Story polls are great because it gives you engagement in your story, which then means people are going to see more of your content if they're clicking on those things. And just ask the questions. And so that's, you know, a second way. So the first was, you know, the kind of more expensive, you know, hire someone to do it for you. The next is just ask your audience, just straight up ask them. And the third, I mean, there's probably more, but the third would be to really take the time to review your analytics. So a lot of people just post and then hope it goes well. And if it doesn't, they're like, oh, it's the algorithm. But really, you need to dive deeper. You need to be looking at, wow, this one did really well. Let's look at, you know, what this one has similar, you know, what's similar about this one to this other one that did really well. And these two did really poorly. What's similar about those two? And trying to figure out, you know, what comments are coming in? What are people saying on the ones that are performing well? And just use that information. Like, the information is there for you. The analytics are there for you, giving you the answers. So you just have to look for it.
I love what you said about the story polls, because I feel like people, because it's been around, it's been a feature, if you will, on Instagram for however many years, that I think it's easy for people to forget because it's not new.
Yeah.
And I, at least, have experimented with asking questions of my audience with the question box. And I think it's almost too much effort. We live in such a fast, instant society, especially with, you know, instant access on Instagram, that you look at that, you're like, oh, I'm not answering this. I have things to do. But a poll is a much lower investment of your time and energy. So, okay, you give me 4 options. Maybe I'll choose, or I'm going to swipe to the next story.
Exactly.
But I find that a poll could be a great way to learn your audience. And Matt and I just did that. We are getting ready to host another mastermind. I had 2 dates, and I was like, you know, I'm actually just going to ask my audience because that's who I want to come. Well, not all of them because I don't have a room big enough. But, you know, I want to serve the audience what it is that we want to produce and host. So let's find a date that works for them. And it's been great because actually the majority is falling on one date, so it makes it nice and tidy. So grateful.
100%. And even in those events that you're hosting, you know, asking your audience, what do you know, in your mind, you know, you've got 3 options of people who could be speakers, and they're all in different industries. And you ask your audience, what do you want to hear about most? What do you want to learn about most? And they've got 3 options, and you're literally creating your event for the people that, you know, want to be there. And it's the same thing with anybody creating content on social media. Just ask, you know, what do you want to learn about next week? What do you want to learn about this month? Just ask. It really is that simple.
We try to do that with the podcast also, of like, okay, what do you want to learn? What do you want to hear about? So then you can kind of tailor that for like, okay, who are those guests? I was so excited to have you on and talk about social media.
Me too.
Because I feel like it could be a monthly episode because it is a world that everybody, for the most part, is so invested in and wanting to use to grow and scale and sell. But also it's changing so quickly.
And the algorithm it changes so quickly.
Like a freaking current.
So quickly. And I think there's a huge piece that has come in the last like 2 years where it's the introduction of AI. And
yes, let's talk about AI.
Let's talk about AI, yeah, because how can we not?
Okay, first question. How do you, as a social media agency, how do you feel about AI?
Love AI.
Okay, we love it. I also
I love
AI.
AI. I mean, you know, there's those moments of like, oh my gosh, is AI going to take over my job? But I actually had a conversation with my dad the other day, and he's been watching a lot of the AI stuff, and he's sending me all these events that are talking about AI. Do you want to go to this? Do you want to go to that? And I'm like, you know, I should probably learn a lot more about this because it's not going anywhere. So, you know, what he said to me is he was listening to somebody speak, and they were saying, you know, should we be afraid that AI is going to take over all of our jobs? And this expert, I don't know who he was, said, no, you don't have to be afraid that AI is going to take your job. You have to be afraid that the people who know how to use AI effectively are going to take your job. So AI is only going to keep growing. So we got to learn to use it, you know, to our advantage and use it effectively. And, you know, that's a whole other, you know, podcast episode on how to effectively use AI and, you know, all that. But in the world of social media, it's changed everything.
Oh my gosh. And I think if you are not prepared to grow with AI, you're going to be left behind.
100%, yeah.
And so you got to get on board. You got to get, and maybe for some people, maybe they're fine with not.
Yeah.
But if you are someone who wants to grow and scale your business,
Yeah.
and life in an extent too,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
really let's talk about business.
Yeah.
You want to be on the AI bandwagon and learn to work with it, understand it, and be prepared to grow with it.
Yeah, yeah. So the biggest shift I think people need to be making in the kind of content they're putting out there because of AI, you know, AI can help you create content. Of course, it's made, you know, every content creator's life easier. It's made my job easier. But you have to change things up because, you know, I like to think about it. There could be an 11-year-old boy sitting behind his computer, putting prompts into ChatGPT and asking it to create a piece of content around, you know, burnout that entrepreneurs experience. Does this 11-year-old boy have, you know, that real life experience? Does he have any perspective into that or any credibility to be putting that out there? No, but he can still create that piece of content. He can put it on social media and people are like, oh, cool. But what we have to be doing as, you know, content creators, as businesses, is creating content that has depth to it. I like to think of it as like 3D content instead of 2D content. Content that has sides to it, has perspectives, has depth, has credibility, and has experience. Because that's the one thing that AI does not have. I mean, AI is not one individual person, you know, experiencing all these things or having perspective on things or opinions on things in the same way that humans can. So I think, you know, people have probably noticed that on Instagram, the reels where people are talking reels and sharing your opinions, sharing your insights, that kind of content is really performing. So I think that's one major shift, creating content with depth and perspective.
Oh yeah. I like to use it sometimes when creating content as it's like a brainstorming piece.
Yeah.
If you know that, okay, I know I want to put something up. I know I want it to be kind of in this content pillar, but help me brainstorm some ideas.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's a great way to use it.
Non-assistant assistant.
Yeah.
As a content assistant.
Yeah.
I still have to film the content, put it together, and then you come up with whatever the caption is to complement the message that you're trying to convey or what you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
But I think being able to use it as a support system can be super helpful.
Yeah, for
at
sure.
least in my user experience.
For sure. And I think sometimes it's just a simple shift. So let's say you're wanting to share we'll talk about my industry. So 3 tips to skyrocket your growth on social media. You know, that's the kind of content that was working at one point. But now people are not necessarily going to Instagram or even to TikTok for that kind of content. If you look back 2 years ago, I remember everybody was saying, oh, this is so great. Instagram and TikTok are becoming search engines, so people are putting their questions into there instead of Google. But now, only a couple of years later,
ChatGPT.
Exactly. Everybody's asking their questions to ChatGPT. And then, that doesn't take away your opportunity on social media. It just means you have to do it differently. So instead of it being 3 tips to grow on social media, it's, my client implemented these 3 things and the results were incredible. Now you've sparked curiosity of, what were the results? What were those 3 things? I'm going to swipe to the next slide. I need to know more. So you're creating a story, and then you talk about your client's transformation, because people need to know, how does your product or service transform their life? And you can do that with storytelling. You can do that with giving insights and perspectives.
I love that. Okay, let's talk about growth, because that's something I'm sure everyone listening wants to achieve.
Yeah.
When it comes to Instagram growth, what is it like? What's the wild, wild west of Instagram right now? How do you grow?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Should I insert the dark and ominous music again?
Yes, we need
Dun,
that.
dun, dun.
We need that, I think, even more than the algorithm. But growth on Instagram right now is super hard. It's really hard. And I mean, think about your own activity on Instagram. If you're scrolling through and you see a post that you like, or a reel that you like that resonates with you, you're probably going to like it. You might share it if there's someone you really want to have see it. But it's not like it used to be, where you're then automatically following that account. You might only make that decision to follow after you see a few pieces of content that they've produced. So it's not like it used to be, but there are ways to grow. And, a lot of it goes back to what I was just talking about being the person to provide the results-based content, the trust in your business and the perspective. So I think being like a thought leader in your industry and just standing out in some kind of way, making people want to know what you have to say. So it's not necessarily about, posting more content, although I do think consistency is important. It's about saying more and sharing more of the knowledge that is inside of you that you need people to know, and give them a reason to follow you. Obviously, there's so many other tactics. First you got to stop the scroll. So you got to have a strong hook, whether that's a visual hook or a text hook. You got to stop the scroll. But then once you've stopped it and they're watching your content, what is going to keep them around? What are they doing next? So then you've got to have your strong call to action. But sometimes even that is not enough. That might only get you so far. You need to give them a reason to follow you. And that's going to come from where you're setting yourself apart from everyone else. And you're sharing like really unique ideas or ways of doing things. And you're really it's undeniably clear how you can transform this person's life in some way, how you can make their life better, whether that's making something more efficient for them. I can help make this task more efficient for you, follow me for more. You wouldn't say that, but in watching your content, they feel something and they feel like this person can transform my life in some way. I need to follow them. So, I wish I could just sit here and give you, here's 5 hacks.
Yeah.
Do these 5 things and your followers are going to, skyrocket.
You mean you're not sitting on the Instagram growth playbook where you're sitting right now?
I wish I was. I wish I was. But there really isn't, 1, 2, 3, or 4 ways to do it. There are strategies. So, consistency, showing up authentically, building a community, because community 10 times out of 10, beats the number of followers you have. I've worked with, and actually recently I've had 2 experiences where I've taken on some great clients who have been around for a long time. They're not new businesses. They have been around for a long time. They had previous agencies running their social media. They've now switched over to mine. And right away, I noticed something very off about their accounts. One had 15,000 followers, one had 9,000 followers, and every piece of content was just falling flat. And I'm like, something else is going on here. I did an audit of their followers to see, how many of them are legitimate. And the results were, 88% of this 15,000 was, bought or not real followers. Yeah. So you can't always look at, that number as much as you focus on community. Because even, I've then on the flip side worked with people who have 500 followers, but those 500 just are this loyal, tight-knit community that will, do anything for each other. And their results are much better than someone who's got tons of followers. So, it's not all about that number, but you definitely, if you can grow that community and make sure it is in fact a community, so, have the best of both worlds, that's ideal. But there really are no hacks.
Well, it's so interesting too, because that's, what you hear people talk about social media, and that it's, with rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
So seeing that giant number, 384K, they might not have anyone that buys from them.
Yeah.
And I've had this conversation a few times when I've worked with brand partners and aware that I'm like, I know I don't have like a massive account, but I'm really proud of my community and what I can deliver to you as someone that's investing in working with me.
Yeah.
That I want to become a champion for your brand. I want to authentically and excitedly share it with my audience, and let's get them buying. Let's get them into your business.
Yeah.
And that they can be really excited about it.
Yeah.
That it's not always just about this like giant number, but also I think you can take that one step further of what type of content you see on Instagram that's so beautifully curated, and all these expensive bags and exotic destinations that you're traveling to.
Yeah.
And who knows what life looks like in real time.
Exactly. So, I think, increasing your followers is great, but there's a lot of other things to look at on your account and to focus on.
What about frequency? Like if you are, again, going back to like the idea of growth, do you post every day? Do you post 2 times a day, 3 times a day?
Yeah. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's really what you can handle effectively and consistently. Yeah. So if you have a social media company running your social media, that's very different than if you're an entrepreneur just starting out and you're having to do it all. You have to find that happy medium. I mean, typically I would say, as a general rule of thumb, I would not recommend less than 3 posts per week. I just don't think that's, just in my professional opinion, I just don't think that that's enough to give you the momentum that is needed for growth on social media these days. But that being said, I think that it is possible, if you were doing 2 posts a week, but those were killer posts with so much insight, so much perspective, so much depth. And, what you were saying in those pieces of content was enough, then you can get away with it. But I would say, stories are more important than people think. I know people neglect stories because they think, oh, well, it's just my followers that are seeing them. But that's where you're turning your followers into a community. And you need that community for that first little bit of the algorithm's little thing. And then, that helps you in the long run to push that content further. So stories, I think you should be showing up daily in your stories authentically. It can be casual, so you don't need to overthink it. And then, I'd say 3+ times per week in your feed. And in terms of platforms, obviously, we've talked mostly about Instagram here, but there are a lot of platforms. And I don't think you need to be everywhere every day. I think you need to find out where your audience is and go there. Show up there. If your audience doesn't exist in that place, don't bother being there.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean so much to me if you took a few seconds and shared this on social media, sent it to a friend, or left a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I'm so grateful to have you part of mine.